What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Games Live right here on the YouTube page of MVP Entertainment. Whether you're watching us live or watching us after the fact on a VOD, thank you guys for joining us today. I am joined, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffins.
Hey!
Soapy, how we doing today? How we doing on this magical of hump days?
I'm doing okay.
Soapy's like, it's alright. It's a Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. I mean, Soapy's like, ask me in 2 days. I'll be a lot better because I don't have to work this weekend.
Yeah, thank fucking God.
Now, would you have rather have not worked this weekend or last weekend when you got the shot? Did it matter, though, because you got the shot on Sunday?
I mean, to be fair, when I got my shot on Sunday, I still went back to work later that night.
Good point. But like when I got my shot the second time, I didn't feel like the after effects until I woke up the next day.
Oh yeah, no, it hit midnight for me, and I started fucking feeling it. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm like, I gotta fucking go to bed.
Yep. Yeah, I went to bed. I went to bed before the initial hit. So it hit while I was sleeping, and then it woke me up. And JD in YouTube chat says, Happy Hump Day to all of you out there. Hey, Carl. What day is it?
Yeah.
What day is it?
Hump Day?
Hump Day.
Yeah.
What a fucking banger of a commercial, man.
Yeah, like, mine kicked in when I was in the middle of D&D. Like, I'm sitting here trying to focus on what's happening.
Oh, no.
Next thing I fucking know, like, my brain just turned to fucking water, and I was like, guys, I gotta fucking go.
So he's like, I gotta leave. Were you DMing too?
Oh, I was a player.
Okay.
If I was DMing, I would have been like, hey guys, sorry for like the hour-long session. My fucking brain just turned to paste.
Oh man, it's my brain turned into crayon eater. But that is going to be, we're talking some working around here on a Wednesday. Let's be honest, there's not a lot to talk about. Soapy, I know the biggest news today, you're heartbroken from it. GTA Online. It's not gonna be on PS3 or Xbox 360 anymore. They're shutting them down.
I'm more upset about the fact that LA Noire lost its online support for 360. How am I ever supposed to go back and play it again?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, it lost. We learned today that Back for Blood is going to need an online connection, even if you're not playing online. So in order to play the game, you're going to have to be connected to the internet no matter what. I don't know how I feel about that. Other news that was out. Basically, the point is, there's not a lot out today. We would have had like a 10-minute show, and it just would have been that. So I proposed a workaround Wednesday idea to Soapy because yesterday was the end of E3, and I kind of touched on this yesterday. There was a little rant that I had that was kind of this topic, but I was like, you know what? We can kind of deep dive into it, and I wanted to kind of dive into how is this year's E3 going to set up future E3s. This was a very different E3 conference because obviously the pandemic was still going. E3 wasn't going to happen. It was all going to be digitally. So I kind of want to have the conversation of how this affects moving forward and what can we expect, because is everything just going to go back to being the same? Are we going to learn from things that happened this year? Before we get into that conversation, though, let's get through the housekeeping. Number one, hit that sub button, that notification button. Make sure you are liking the video, commenting. We love our YouTube overlords and the algorithm that they give us. So make sure you're hitting that sub button, especially that notification button, so you're staying on track to what we're doing here at MVP Entertainment. If you want to get in on the MVP Discord, you can right now for free. Link down below. You can get in on the conversations happening in gaming, TV, and movies for you guys on the entertainment side. Greatest community in the universe. You can join it for free down below. And if you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you can go ahead and do that. Link is down below. You can get rewarded. We have different tiers for you if you would like to support us at a monetary value. But Soapy, getting into the conversation, E3 is gone. It ended yesterday. And obviously there was no crowds this year. And the thing I think about is there anything, or are there things that you think we will learn and adapt from this E3 into future E3s? Or is this just going to be something where, like, example for Xbox, I love their showcase because, like I said when we were talking about it, there was like a 20-minute span where I looked at my watch and I went, we have not had a person talk to us. It has just been game, 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 show me, show me, show me, which is exactly what I want. Do you feel like things like that are here to stay, or once people are back in the building for E3, it's going to go back to that, oh, well, we have to have people on stage, so they're going to talk for the majority, and it's not going to be as much rapid showing of games?
I think it's going to go back to the old way, and it's just because they have this weird idea that, like obviously, when you go to, like, a panel or something, or you go to a showcase, and if you're physically there, obviously you don't want to just stare at the screen the whole time, because you just have the thought of, like, I could have just fucking done this at home.
Yeah.
At the same time, I also just view it as, like, you could just have it people who show up early, already see it before everyone else. Give them some other benefit. I think it's the fact that we're going to go back to the same old boring, like, listening to Phil Spencer be like, the history of Xbox is fantastic. Us here at Xbox have been working incredibly hard to bring you the greatest products we can with Game Pass. And it's going to, like, the fucking Xbox Game Pass logo is going to pop up behind them. They've brought in 23 studios. That's right, 23 of them into the Xbox family.
You've been working on this, haven't you?
Dude, I know how he fucking talks. He does the same thing every time. But, like, it's literally the same exact thing every time over. Like, I just get to the point with E3, I'm like, I get to the point where I'm like, fuck it, I'm not watching it. I'm just looking up what happens.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't want to sit here and listen to someone be like, we spent a lot of time doing this. I'm like, okay, listen, I get it. Put a lot of time and effort into this. I get it. It is your pride and joy. I'm not here to listen to you. I'm here to see your product.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well, and that's the thing where, like, I pray to God, I said this yesterday, I pray to God that these game companies are going to at least take away the fact that, hey, this year it was something of, because the thing that you mentioned of, like, well, the people that are there, we need to give them something, because it's like, the thing I think of is, like, your ticket to go to E3, you know what is the access that you get to that no one else does? Everything else at the freaking con. Everything else that's there. The showroom floors, the other demos that they have going on. Like, you get to experience that because the one staying at home doesn't. Like, yeah, you can stay at home, but, like, if you stay at home, all you get is the showcases. You do not get everything else that E3 brings. Let's see. Tim says over under how many times they say unprecedented times. And I love your answer, Soapy. At least 6 million times. I would say it's over 9,000 for sure.
Every fucking show had it.
In these unprecedented times, Soapy.
Like, the fucking dev team that's 4 people were like, we ran into a hard wall with this unprecedented times. It's like, just say we got stuck at fucking home.
Yeah.
Not trying to make it to where, like, oh, we're going to use a big word to make ourselves sound.
Or say how it really means. No one was making money, so none of you guys could buy our games. Because that's it. No one was making money.
Yeah, essentially it was like, hey, this passion project we had, that shit got put in the back burner.
Yeah.
Because fucking George couldn't pay his goddamn rent.
Yeah.
So George had to go get an actual job.
And that's where I feel like there are, especially with, like, showcases. So I feel like there are some things from before the COVID times, the before times, as I like to call them, that I liked about E3 showcases, like the Xbox where they showed off Cyberpunk and you have Keanu Reeves come out on stage. I don't want to get rid of that. Like, I don't want it to be forced, obviously, but, like, if you have a moment like that, that could be like, okay, that's something that's a fan service for the people who are there. They get to experience that live. Everyone else just gets to watch it on their computer screen. But, like, there's the one thing that I think we've learned this year, and not just with E3, but I think also with the DC fandom, is nobody likes to watch a person just talk on a stage. Like, we watch E3, we watch these things to get showcased, to be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is it. Like, if you also, and yet again, this is something that maybe won't happen because it kind of takes time away. But like, if you want to add something for people that are there, say, all right, this is going to be the Xbox showcase. We're not going to really talk. We're going to show more than we talk. But hey, there is going to be a panel, or like, you know what? After the showcase is done, we'll have a Q&A that might happen to be live streamed. But then it's like, then at that point, it's like the people who want to stay are staying for that. And the one thing that I like this year is, for example, like Nintendo did it, where they had their showcase, and then immediately after they had what was called Treehouse, and it was basically, we're just going to go into depth on some things. Like, I know they spent time a lot on, I think it was Mario Party and the Mario Golf game, or as Soapy would call it, the Mario Recreational Activity game. But like, those things I liked, and they were able to do that because it's like, hey, we don't have people sitting here that it's like, how long is someone going to sit there? It's more of like a, hey, this is a video. Even if you have to walk away from your computer, it'll be here later. You can go check it out. I don't want to get away from what this E3 was, because I feel like showcase wise, there were some showcases. Some didn't have great showcases, but that was more about what they showed than the thing. Like Capcom's could have been a fucking email. But I mean, for the most part, I liked it. I liked that most of them were like, hey, we're just going to show you what we got. And that's what we want. We want to see what games are being announced.
Yeah, and I think just on top of it, something that I also took away from this is like, dude, there are some companies, they need to stop going to E3. There are just some of them that need to stop.
Like what?
If you don't have shit, Capcom.
Yeah.
If you don't have shit to announce, don't go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just look at it as, like, Capcom was a waste of time. I think Ubisoft was a waste of time. I don't care. Like, I don't want to see fucking DLC at E3.
Yeah.
Just make a trailer and just put it on YouTube. Because that's how I found out about fucking Valhalla the first time.
Yeah.
Like, just release a trailer. I don't need to see it at E3. Because, like, then when you start talking about it, it's like, oh, cool. I have to dance around spoilers in my thing where I'm talking about the DLC. Because there's still people who haven't played the fucking game yet.
Talking about me?
No, I'm not talking about you.
Oh, okay.
I
was like, because I haven't played Valhalla yet.
Presentation for a DLC at E3.
Yeah.
No, like, you get the people that, like, they have, like, at E3 presentations for DLCs, like, especially if it's, like, a DLC at the very end of the game, they have to dance around what happens. Like, when you reach the end of the game, it's like, oh, okay. So, basically, you're telling these people, either, A, the main character's dead, this is a new fucking character,
well, and
or
like,
B, they don't die.
And, like, the thing that I didn't like that Capcom did, one of the things, because I remember watching it, and my reaction was just like, the fuck does that do for us? Where they were like, we really want to thank everyone who's jumped into the new horror game of Resident Evil Village. We spent a lot of time on it. Although we have nothing to show, we do want to tell you we are working on DLC and it is in development. And there's a part of me that's like, okay, what does that do for me? Like, don't you, like, this wasn't a Breath of the Wild 2 situation. Like, we're at the last big Nintendo Direct. It felt like oh shit, they mentioned it. And it was actually a good thing that they mentioned it, because we would have freaked out. If they just would have never mentioned they were working on Resident Evil Village DLC, would have any Resident Evil fan gotten mad that, oh my god, how did they not mention any DLC for this game that just came out like a couple months ago?
I don't think anyone would have been mad, but I think it's more of like you being in a situation if you haven't played the game, like, I was happy to hear it.
Yeah, but like, did you...
Once again, they didn't have to tell me about Breath of the Wild 2.
I mean,
it tells me that they're still supporting the game.
They didn't have to, but they at least had a trailer. Where like Resident Evil,
you know what I mean though. I think comparing the two, I think one, they're the exact same thing.
Okay.
Like, if you don't have anything to show me, why tell me about it?
Yeah, I mean,
because now I gotta listen to people like, I can't wait for Breath of the Wild 2. You're gonna get those fucking people coming out of the goddamn woodwork.
So you're talking about the last Direct, not this Direct, where they were like, hey, we're working on it, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Like, I think it's, if you don't like the fact they told you about the DLC, you I think it should be the same for Breath of the Wild too. It's if you don't have anything to show me, don't fucking tell me about it.
Yeah,
because then make it a bigger surprise when it pops up later on that I'm not expecting it.
I see where you're coming from, and I can get behind it. The only grain of salt that's different is Breath of the Wild has been anticipated, whereas like I'll ask you. You finished Resident Evil. I have not. Have you already, after beating it, anticipated a DLC this soon? Or we're like, I'll probably get that in a couple months?
I anticipated a DLC pretty early, especially considering how hyped it was.
Okay. Yeah, it was just
and
like...
That's the thing. Like,
go ahead.
I just look at it as, I think you can't bash one without, like, bashing the other, because at the same time, it's the same thing.
Well, you know, it's Nintendo, so Soapy's...
I get it. One's anticipated, one may not be as anticipated, but once again... No, I'm also bashing Capcom because I think it was also fucking stupid they did it.
Yeah, I gotta throw the punches.
I think the fact of I don't think you can pick just one being better than the other because it's literally the same thing of them like both being like, oh hey, we don't have anything to show. We're just gonna tell you. So later on down the line when we show you, it's not like a huge like, oh holy shit, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's just like. That entire, and we talked about it yesterday, that entire presentation from Capcom was like, this could have been an email. And like, maybe that's a thing that goes into the what can we learn from for next year and future E3s. Is it something to where it's like, if you don't have anything to show, don't feel like you have to be there. Now, I know Sony's on a different planet. They're kind of like, well, we don't fucking need E3. We're bigger than E3. We'll have our own state of plays, and people will watch those, even though you'll have a state of play, not advertise that it's just Ratchet and Clank. And then I'm like, what the fuck? I thought there was going to be more than just Ratchet and Clank for 16 minutes. But, like, for Capcom, that was one where they fell into it. I think it was Koch Media, I think is it. I got to look up the exact name of the showcase, but like they were one. Like Ubisoft, it's a little bit hard for Ubisoft because like I'll ask you, do you think how big of a shock would it be if it's like, oh well, Ubisoft is not going to be at E3 this year?
I mean, I don't think it'd be that much of a shock. I don't know much of the projects they have going on. Like everything they showed is just shit of like, okay, like why is that here? I could have predicted a DLC was coming for Valhalla.
True.
I could have, I already knew Extinction was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and even that, like, we barely got anything about the Splinter Cell anime that's coming out. We barely got anything about the TV stuff. Could have just saved the Rabbids thing for Nintendo only.
Yeah, they kind of showed, like, that's the thing. They showed that off twice. I get, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, why that was shown twice, because it was, like, Square Enix, hey, it's our property, we're going to go full into it. Nintendo was like, hey, it's just going to be on Switch. Boom, it's announced, there's a date, move on. And yeah, it was Koch, K-O-C-H, Primetime. It was a 2-hour kind of showcase, and everything I hear from it was that it was awful. Ubisoft was kind of Gearbox was, I mean, besides for what Tiny Tina's Wonderland, like, there wasn't a ton of stuff that was shown off to where it's like, I'll ask you, will some of these game companies actually learn that, hey, I don't have anything to show off that's huge. Instead of going to E3, I'm going to find a different path. And maybe does Summer Games Fest, that's apparently still going on, does that become bigger next year to where it's like someone like Capcom, like a Ubisoft can go, hey, I may not have enough for a presentation at E3, but I do have enough to maybe be incorporated into a Summer Games Fest thing.
I mean, I think you can. The only thing is, I think it's just if you don't have anything to announce, don't go to either. I think that's the stance I'm at. Like, obviously, Gearbox had at least one thing to show, and they were like, oh, we have a movie! And it's like, no one cares about that movie.
Let's get hype. Kevin Hart, he sells tickets, right? Kevin Hart sells tickets.
After Kevin Hart also then complains about cancel culture, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just I think a lot of companies need to learn, like, if you don't have anything for E3, don't go.
Mm-hmm. Well,
like, just release it to fucking, like, Kotaku or something. You're getting about the same fucking coverage.
yeah, and I mean, like, when I say, like, hey, we have something to be a part of Summer Games Fest, I mean, like, for example, Capcom, where it's like, let's say the Ace Attorney trailer was like, hey, we really want to get that out in front of people, and we don't want to just put it on YouTube and then let Kotaku and stuff cover it. We want to have it be, like, a bigger deal. If Summer Games Fest, like their kickoff show, like one of those where it's like, hey, we can just add it to one of these, or like, hey, we can add it into like one of like the it wouldn't be like an indie one, but like if they could find a showcase where it fits into to where it's like, okay, we still got this trailer shown, we were there, like air quotes, but it wasn't like a hey, we took up a half-hour thing that was a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I think companies need to look to do something like that because obviously, like there were times of where, because like I'm just gonna bring up the Microsoft one. Obviously, Microsoft showed up a lot more than just Capcom.
Yeah.
But like, when they were talking about Forza for like 30 minutes, literally my whole thought is, I'm like, bro, every Forza game's the fucking same. You don't need to show me like the same rocks.
But they're gonna show like Forza Horizon is one of like Xbox's staples that like that is always gonna.
You don't need to show 20 fucking minutes of a car going vroom vroom.
So it's always gonna be there, and it's gonna be talked about at length because there are people out there that are hardcore fans of it, and that's what happens.
The same thing every time it comes out. They're like, the team at Forza, we're trying our hardest to make the game look beautiful. But you look at that, you see that rock? That's a fully textured rock. We had Phil sit down at his desk for 28 straight hours. No water, no food. And we told him, Phil, I'm gonna bust your fucking kneecaps if you try to get up from that chair one more time. Finish that fucking rock. And we copy and pasted that fucking rock everywhere. So and now
Phil Spencer's the one making the rocks.
Well, no, there's just another guy named Phil.
Oh, okay.
They're like, and then we copy and pasted that rock everywhere. Everything in this game is fully textured. It's a damn shame you're in a car so you can't get out and fully explore the world.
Like, I get what you're saying, but a lot of it was like for that. It's like, okay, for me, I zoned out a little bit because it's like, okay, I'm not a racing car guy unless it's like Need for Speed or Juiced, which I played way back in the day. But like, yeah, like. So we've already talked about, hey, what we can do differently at at showcases. We can do differently, like, hey, if you don't have anything to show, don't show up to E3. Soapy, I will ask you, is there something that you think that's like, hey, it's not what we've talked about yet, but hey, this is something we can learn on from this year's E3?
And I already know some people will get fucking mad at me for this. Don't have whole panels about, like, and I don't want to say, like, diversity and stuff, because, like, it's going to sound like I'm being a fucking shitlord when I say it.
Things that are not about the games themselves.
Yeah, like, and I get it. Obviously, expanding the general gaming sphere. Mm-hmm. But when you focus on it, it becomes a point of, like, okay, the people who are just here for gaming don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, you're essentially preaching to the choir at that point. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to be like an asshole when I say it. I'm not trying to be like, hey, get those people out of here. Yeah. Like, you can talk about it during the show. Mm-hmm. But I think having, like, hour-long conversations is, like, that's the whole reason a company showed up. Mm-hmm. I think it's something of where it's like, just have a panel.
Well, that to me, like, exactly, a panel where that to me is the exact same thing as, like, okay, you're talking about having something that's just for the people of E3 to go to. And I know this year, different. No one was there. But, like, that is something you can have for, like, okay, if you're at E3, we're going to have this panel. To where it's like, there are things you can go to and bring in that's like, hey, here's the difference of buying a ticket to not. JD also says in chat for you, Soapy, that they, being Xbox, need to do that because he knows tons of people who only buy the Xbox for Forza. He goes, it's the same for sports games.
Man, imagine spending $500 on a next-gen console to race a car you could have raced in the last game.
I mean, people can say the same thing about computers, though. Like, man, think about spending all that money just to play World of Warcraft.
Well, I mean, if you build a computer just to build...
You know what I mean?
If you build a computer just to play fucking Minecraft, I'm not gonna lie, you either have too much money laying around, you need to touch grass, you need to feel the touch of a woman or a guy, depending which way you go. And you know, you just
we don't kink shame here. Remember that, Soapy.
It's not so much kink shame. It's more or less I'm not going to be like, no, you
maybe you like touching some feet. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, if that's your thing, that's your thing.
That beautiful feet.
Like I mean, obviously there's a massive difference between buying a computer to a console, because with computers you just have to upgrade one thing in your computer.
Yeah.
Consoles you have to wait, like you buy fucking, you spend like $600 on it.
But like,
and then it's like, oh, all I do is play Forza. It's like, wow, you spent $500 to play a $60 game.
I get what he is saying though. Like they have to do that because Forza is such a big property for them. It's like the same thing with Nintendo. Well, actually, Nintendo didn't show off a Mario game this year. I mean, they showed off a golf game and Mario Party, but they didn't show off like an actual
recreational activity game.
Yeah, but they didn't show off like an actual Mario game. Going back to what you were talking about, though, refresh my memory because my brain just went to mush.
About which part?
About the thing that you brought up. The last thing we were talking about before I brought up JD's comment.
Yeah, I think it's just like having it over, like you devote entire segments to talking about stuff like that. It's understandable, and I get it. It's a conversation that needs to be had, but at the same time, it's also a conversation of where it's when you constantly force it down people's throats. There are people who are just going to be like, "No, fuck you, I'm not going to watch it."
Well, I mean,
like at that point, it's like I said, you're kind of preaching to the choir at that point, because, for instance, like when that stuff came on, I'm gonna sound like a fucking dick when I say it. I muted my stream. I was like, I'm not gonna fucking sit here and listen through it. It's like, because I've heard all these points before. I get preaching, like I'm not trying to fucking say like get them people out of the industry. I'm not saying that.
No. Here's the thing too, and this is what I'll say about it from my end, because like I remember having a similar kind of stance for DC Fandom, because I think DC Fandom had two of them. They had one for like the women of the industry, and then another one for like a person of color in the industry, in the superhero like DC world. And my problem with it, and yet again, I didn't listen to the one at E3, so I have no like I didn't hear it or what they said. I don't know if it's different or the same, but the thing that I hate, the one thing I hate about these panels is it's just the same stuff said over and over, you know what I'm saying? To where it's like, there's nothing really, for example, if I came on here on the show, and there's some things I do, there's mannerisms that I have that are the same, but like, if you and I came on and did the same show each and every day, no difference, it would get stale. It would be like, okay, I've heard this before. I need something different, to where like, that's one kind of negative that I have, is like it feels like the same thing said over and over, where there's like no new perspective coming out.
Yeah, and I think just my major thing with it, of when you look into it, obviously, like I do think diversity and opening up the industry to people of color, to women, people, LGBTQ and everything. I think that is important. Gaming is for everybody. But I think it's a fact of when you constantly hit people over the fucking head with it every conference, like you get the people that they're just going to tune out. And obviously, people will just write those people off as bigoted. But like, for instance, like I said, I muted my stream.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear it every time I go to every stream. And I know, like I said, it's a conversation that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that people need to understand if there is mistreatment of people like that in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I mean, look at
don't deny it.
What company was it? Fuck.
Ubisoft had like the 3 incidents of like their fucking CEO being creepy.
Didn't Riot have issues with shit like that though? Like that was more sexual harassment, I thought, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, both were for sexual harassment.
Yeah, which falls into this, like the mistreatment of people. no matter who you are.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said, it is something that needs to be talked about. But like you said, it's the same thing every time. Of where it's like, oh, we're seeing an increase of women in the gaming industry, and that's a wonderful thing. It's like, yeah, it is wonderful. We like gamers don't hate seeing women and people of color and like people of LGBTQ in the community. We don't mind it. The only thing that a lot of people have a problem with is where it's like, all right, you're here, and we accept that. And now this is where it's going to sound really fucked up. And if I somehow get fucking in trouble for this, I'm not sorry about saying it like this.
Okay.
Just shut the fuck up. Like, we get it. Like I said, I'm probably going to get fucking in trouble for wording it that way, but I don't care.
The only thing I would say is I would hit you with the archer of phrasing. We're not doing phrasing anymore. But like I understand what you're saying though, because and like from our perspective, because you and I have a similar perspective to this. Of one, first off, people are gonna listen to this part of the podcast and go, "Oh, two white males, your opinion doesn't matter." But also it's just because you and I are on the same side of the fence, it's something to where it's like, I get what you're saying. And it's like, it's true because it's like, I don't want to say like, oh, I have a problem with it. But the only thing that for someone like me, it just gets to the point where it's like, all right, I get it. All right, I get it. Because I'm someone that's like you, where it's like, great, you're here making games. That's cool. We're all the same. Like, we can all make games and we all have different perspectives. And it's kind of like making a game is like writing a story. We're like the best stories. You ask the author, what went into this character? Why did you make this decision? Oh, I drew from my own life experiences. And that's what seeped into the game. But like, I get what you're saying. And I feel like we need to figure out how to not make every single one of these panels feel the exact same beginning to end.
Yeah, and I think it's just the fact of, like you said before, everything just gets repeated exactly. I think, for instance, you can highlight people of color, of LGBT, of, being within the industry, highlight them, and that is fine. We have no problem with it. Do stuff like that instead of just constantly being like, oh, hey, yeah, the entire gaming industry is like this fucking cesspool of just shitty people. Like, at that point, you're kind of pushing new people away from games. Let's say there's someone who has never played a video game before, and like they're watching E3 because, like, let's say they're in their 20s or something, like, and they're looking for a hobby, and and let's say they are of like LGBTQ, like POC, female, in that range. Because obviously, it's typically males are more predominant in gaming. Because gaming has always kind of just been like seen as the guy thing to do.
Yeah.
But when you see like at those are where like it's always just people highlight like the negatives of gaming. They always point out like, oh, this is the bad, this is the bad. Like, we're just now getting this. It's like, well, why not have it to where like at E3, like, you basically, I don't want to say put people on a pedestal because I don't like doing that with anybody. But like, highlight super influential women in gaming.
Yeah.
And talk about like the hardships they've gone through. Do it like that. Yeah. Don't just be like, yeah, being a woman's hard. Like, yes, we hear it every conference. Like, and obviously, I'm not a woman. I don't know that experience.
Yeah.
So, like, and obviously, I know someone's probably going to call me a fucking misogynistic pig, which is fine. It is what it is. I don't want to say won't change my opinion, because obviously I am open.
Yeah.
It's like I've said, it's a conversation that needs to happen, but it's the fact of, I think it's some people just are looking at it as like a, if you're not this, done for. Where it's like, I just want there to not be repeatedly, hey, we just started in this. It's like, okay, cool. Show us the progress you've made. Bring up the feats of women in gaming. Bring up the feats of people of color. Bring up the LGBT community within gaming.
Instead of just, this is a problem, this needs to change. All right, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah. Actions speak louder than words.
Yep. I agree.
Show that.
Soapy, the last thing I want to bring up, and this is kind of going into something that we didn't get to talk about yesterday because it wasn't announced until after the show. The one thing I hope E3 stays with, but I hope they do a better job of it, is the first ever E3 awards that we had for it. Because I like the idea, but after looking at the list, I'm not quite sure that this was the right format. So in case you guys are wondering, there was an E3 award show, and the winners, it was all the most anticipated games of every conference. They had a best presentation, most anticipated game overall, and they were selected by editors from IGN, GameSpot, PC Gamer, and Games Radar. I'm not going to ask you every single one, Soapy, but for some of the big ones. So Ubisoft, the most anticipated game, was Mario plus Rabbids, Sparks of Hope.
Okay.
It's not even your own game was most anticipated. That just take that in. Obviously, Gearbox.
Also, notice it's a fucking Nintendo game.
Exactly.
Hell,
exactly.
It's like I've been saying this all fucking year.
So, Gearbox was.
I'm just gonna point this out. A little known other game got announced during the E3 times. It's a little known game known as fucking Elden Ring. What a fucking Mario Rabbids game was.
Did not get announced at E3. That's the thing. This is the E3 awards, not the Summer Game Fest.
I'm sorry, we fucking downgraded. We went from potential fucking game of the year, one of the best games to ever possibly fucking exist, to a game people forget in a year.
But wait. That was just for the Ubisoft presentation. So it was all the games from Ubisoft. That was the most anticipated.
That's like the only fucking game they announced. So
I mean, Avatar. Avatar.
Ooh, fuck you.
So, Gearbox, it was obviously Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I will ask you this, Soapy. Out of all the games announced at the Xbox presentation, what would you have voted for most anticipated game just from the Xbox Bethesda showcase?
I probably would personally say Starfield, but I know it's not going to be Starfield.
What do you think it was? Because it was not Starfield.
It's either Outer Worlds 2, someone will say fucking Forza.
Uh-huh.
Then probably Redfall.
Halo Infinite.
Oh, okay. That actually doesn't...
Halo Infinite, which is like, okay, I get it. Square Enix was obviously Guardians of the Galaxy. Deserves to be. It's fucking amazing. PC Gaming Show was Songs of Conquest. Futures Game Show was Immortality. You have Dolphin Quest for Intellivision. Let's see. Indie Games was Falling Frontier. Freedom Games was Airborne Kingdom. Capcom was The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. I'll ask you this for Nintendo. What do you think it was?
Probably Breath of the Wild 2.
Breath of the Wild 2. What would you say best presentation of the weekend?
I'd probably say Microsoft.
Xbox and Bethesda showcase.
Hey, look at that. They got it right.
However, what would you say is the most anticipated game overall from all of E3, not Summer Games Fest?
It's going to be a fucking Nintendo game.
It's not Nintendo.
Wow, would you look at that? I'm trying to think of the other ones.
I'm giving you a hint with my reaction.
Yeah. I know, I don't want to say Halo Infinite, because I know it's not going to be Halo Infinite.
You're getting closer.
Alright, am I at least in the same fucking conference?
You're in the right showcase.
Forza?
It's Forza Horizon 5.
How? Bro, if you played Forza 3, you played Forza 5. The only fucking difference, they added one new muffler, and people are like, oh, hot damn! You see that muffler?
Soapy, editors from IGN, GameSpot, PC Gamer, and Games Radar voted Forza Horizon 5 the most anticipated game of the conference. My question is, here's my question though. How can it be the most anticipated game overall, but it wasn't even the most anticipated of its own showcase?
Yeah, I'm just saying, dude, I'm smelling some fucking collusion.
Oh,
I have to have an internal investigation. AKA, is IGN being paid off by the Forza team?
maybe the Forza team is leaking a little dollar bills, y'all, to these editors, making sure they get those big bucks. But any final things you want to bring up before we close out the show?
Oh, not really. I'm just upset. I hate the fact that Forza got it.
Soapy's like, why'd you have to ruin my day, man? Why'd you have to do that? But that's going to do it for MVP Games Live. I want to thank you guys for being here, experiencing this with thanks to Tim and JD for being here in YouTube chat. Remember, join the Discord down below if you want to get into any more conversations with us and everyone else from the MVP community. We got a great community all the way over there. If you want to support us, patreon.com/MVPvids is how you go ahead and support us. You can be rewarded for supporting us, and make sure hit that sub button, that notification button, that like button, comment down below. Let us know what you think from the entire conversation we had today. Soapy and I will be back tomorrow with more gaming news, hopefully more gaming news for you guys. Thank you for being as awesome as you always are, and as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.